Well, hello there. How are you? I just realized that this StreamYard only goes to my business page. And so I was playing with it, and um, then Facebook wouldn't let me share my business page or erase the page that I put up and said that we were going on live on my business page. So it was mass confusion, but it's okay because it's all good. I want to welcome to Michelle Moross and Random Thoughts. And I've got a special guest today. He's not really like new in my life. He's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for, I think, a year. His name is Gary Barnes. He's from Gary Barnes International. And he and I have partnered up to do the Breakthrough Speaker Mastery Bootcamp. And he always does the Breakthrough Business Mastery Bootcamp. So bootcamp is our thing. And I thought, Gary and I have the most insightful conversations. And I thought, who better to just talk about what's going on in our world right now. We're all becoming so uncomfortable, and now we're in like week 5 and 6, some of us week 6, 7 maybe, and it's getting uncomfortable. And I wanted to discuss with Gary because he's got some great points of wisdom that we bring out in each other. And so I wanted to share those moments with you while we talk about what's going on in the world. So please share this post because Gary Barnes is about to join me live. And let's see how good I am at clicking and making him come on. Let's see if I can do it. I did
it. You are so fancy.
Gary. Huh?
I said, you are so fancy. I mean, backstage, and I was in the green room, but I didn't have the green M&Ms and the Evian water. I don't know what this is all about.
Well, you forgot to put it in your writer, the things that you needed in the green room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, next time get it in the writer. Okay. But I got this new application to go live on Facebook. And what's really cool about it is now we can put logos and we can talk and we can stream it to multiple locations. And Gary and I are business partners with the Breakthrough Speaker Mastery Bootcamp. I always want to call it the Breakthrough Business. And because, even though we call it the Speaker Mastery, we talk about the business of speaking. And so Gary and I are really into helping people work through their mindset of the things they can't do and seeing what they can do. He's where I keep saying the Yoda phrase, right, Gary? What's your Yoda phrase?
There is no try, just do or do not.
So it's his fault that I always quote Yoda.
Yeah, I get the blame. I go, I'll take it.
It's a good blame.
I'll blame Yoda.
It's a great blame. Now, what I did is I wanted all of you to come on because I asked Gary, and let's see if the ticker works. How are you today? Isn't this fancy?
Whoa.
How are you today? And if you want to, you can message us. And I don't know if StreamYard will allow you to make comments if you're not part of StreamYard, but I think I'm seeing, I'm seeing a Facebook user say woohoo. So because you're not part of StreamYard, I can't see your name. And if you are part of StreamYard, it'll let me know who it is. So right now, I don't know who you are. I just see woohoo and hey guys. So thank you for being here, and give us the likes and the hearts and whatever, and let us know you're here. And where are you watching from? See, Gary and I are both international speakers, so we have viewers from around the world, and I'm really curious about who's awake on the other side of the world and who is awake on our side of the world, right, Gary?
Yes, I mean, we are a global society now, and that's what makes it really, for me, exciting. I mean, I am not old, but older, and when technology was, we could actually have a phone that wasn't attached to a cord, and now we're just doing things over the air like Star Trek. So hey, and what's really interesting is all of the different ways that the different cultures take in information, how they're doing business, how they're dealing with adversity. It's not a one size fits all. And because of that, I think we're better off because we're able to support in different ways.
It's phenomenal. And back to the question, how are you today, Gary?
I'm doing phenomenal. I remember years ago, Tommy Hopkins. Do you remember Tommy, who he is? Tommy was one of the original sales gurus. He has a company out of Arizona now. But he started in real estate. We sold real estate within about 35, 40 miles of each other. And but he said in his sales training, when somebody says, "How are you?" always answer unbelievable. And that way they can determine whether it's good, better, and different.
I like that. I'm going to use it. Unbelievable.
Bottom line, they probably don't care. They're just saying hi.
Well, I do care.
I know you care.
Oh, we've got Laura and Janelle and Heather and Ann and Smith. Oh, we have so many people popping on. Okay, here's the thing. For those of you who know me, I'm like Dory from the movie Finding Nemo. So I'm going to stop reading those or I'll forget why we're even on the call in the first place. Right, Gary?
Nemo.
No, I'm Dory. It's shiny. Shiny. That's me. So I've got Mr. Gary Barnes with me. And the question is, how are you today? Gary's doing, what was the word?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I love that. So you should all try that. That would be a good game to play for the next couple of weeks. How are you feeling? How are you doing? Unbelievable. And you can play with your intonation because if you go up, maybe they'll think you're having a great week. And if you do, unbelievable.
You know, one of the things over the years, I really, and I know that you know and work with this as well, our brains are computers. Whatever we tell it, it will respond in like manner. And so over the years, when people say, "How are you?" I go, "Well, there's only two choices, good or great. And today I'm great. Maybe I'm good tomorrow, but today I'm great." And so if we give ourselves just the choices that we want, and that's not being a Pollyannish type of personality to where there's things that don't go wrong. I mean, today we're frustrated, we're angry, we're sad, we're scared, we're whatever. But it's what we respond to those emotions that gives us a result that is going to be better than if we go down the dark side and just kind of say, well, it's going to be what it is.
It is what it is. Well, and that's the other reason I wanted you on here for the topic, because you and I both have backstories, and that's kind of what brought us together, is we've been very uncomfortable in our lives. And so that's really what brought me on, because so many people, well, here, let's go fancy again. Are you uncomfortable? And the reason I wanted Gary on this call is because I want him to give a little of his backstory. And the reason I say that is because most of you who watch me know my backstory. So I'll share mine in a bit. So I want Gary to share his about, we are experts at being uncomfortable. And I want him to share, and I'll share, and we'll share together. How did we get out of that uncomfortableness and how it moved us to our next level? So Gary, can you please share your story? I mean, why? What is your uncomfortable story?
You know, and I'll preface this is that without being uncomfortable, there is no growth. If we look at things are going well, we have everything going along, just without any adversity, there is no stimulus, there's no creativity to think outside the box. And so my story, I mean, I come from a very dysfunctional family, which I kind of wonder if there is a quote functional family. And we won't go into some of the dark side from where I came from, but people have asked me, how did I come out and do what I do coming from the situation there? But in 1988, I was also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And their prognosis, the doctor who is supposed to know everything, correct, that said, go home, enjoy your family, because you will be dead or in a wheelchair within 10 years. And at that moment, I had no feelings from the neck down. I had lost the ability to write, to walk. And I started looking for ways of adjusting that, how to go around the mountain, if you will. And, at the moment that happened, I own a very large financial planning firm. And people don't want to know that you might be dying. They're not going to want to give you money. And so I created a visualization. I went in a different direction. But at the same time, we went through 5 major downturns in the market, including 9/11. And all at the same time, it was almost like the story of Fiddler on the Roof, where, Tiev is dealing with his daughters and the adjustments in the political scene. And, at one moment he looks up into the heavens and says, God, I know you think highly of me, but could you go bless somebody else for a little bit? And sometimes we feel like we're that lightning source, that image, that, oh golly, or Eeyore, or Ziggy, or whatever if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, am I dating myself? Well, no, I date Sharon. But the thing is that through the adversity, the reality of my life has changed, and what I saw was, or at the time, was one of the most devastating times of my life has become my biggest blessing, and being able to affect lives around the world. And I and Michelle knows this, I hate writing, but I have 9 books out, and the first one was How a Beaver Saved My Life. And just the imagery, the things that, when we do fun things. And I put out a post this morning to let people know about what we're doing this morning. And I said, yeah, when Michelle and I get together, you can never tell what's going to happen. But okay, so this is one of the beavers that see the tail. But the visualization around what I wanted to have happen without guarantees. That's the interesting thing. When we set our intention, we're dealing with the adversity, we're dealing in the situation, and there are no guarantees. But there is a guarantee if we decide to just let go and let the circumstance take us over. So I don't want to take a lot of time, but that's just a little bit of where I've come from and what I've dealt with.
Fantastic. I just shared the live video onto my personal page so people can find us. But no, you definitely want to find his books and learn more about Gary, because he's a really special guy. When I meet him after meeting hundreds and thousands of other people, and I went, I want to be with you. I want to help other people grow. I want to guide people with you. And so Gary and I have a very special relationship, and you'll see through this conversation that we seem like we've known each other for years. Gary, How long have we known each other?
A year ago, January. You were a participant, an attendee at one of my boot camps, my 3-day events. And, here's the joke. I found out that she was a TEDx speaker trainer. And so I'm promoting her in the room thinking that, hey, this is the thing to do. I got somebody, and I already knew that you were somebody special. And so I was promoting in the room saying, hey, go see Michelle. She'll help you. We'll do it. And then she comes up to me afterwards and says, can we do this program together? And I have a little saying, after being married, in June, it'll be 46 years.
Wow, really? Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. That's longer than a lot of people on this call are alive. I mean, that does make me older. But
more seasoned, I'd like to say, mister.
That is yes, dear. So I said, yes, dear. And there's a saying you have come up for us. What is that saying?
I don't remember. I just say it naturally.
You're my brother from
you're my brother from another mother of another color. That's what you are. Mother of another color. Yes. And because we're like 2 peas in a pod. And if you are ever fortunate enough to be in a room with us together, or actually you're kind of in it right now, we're almost like an Abbott and Costello, or a Desi Arnaz and Lucy. Mm-hmm. I mean, we play off of each other really well. And I love that about Gary, because the whole thing about life is if you're not having fun, you're not living, right? And so when Gary told me his story, I heard his story, I'm like, maybe that's why we're bonding so well, because I was going through the same kind of thing at the same time. When I met him, he was talking about overcoming, the MS, and he's standing there walking and talking and doing everything. He's not in a wheelchair. And I'm like, I was in the middle of my cancer journey. So I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it. I know I'm doing it. So now I know what it looks like, several years down the line, and I can keep going. And so Gary gave me inspiration, friendship, and another path for my business, because what you didn't know is I didn't call myself a speaker coach until Gary told me I was. It's a secret. It's a secret.
But here's the other secret. Somehow I already knew you were. You may not have known it, but I did.
No, you knew. I mean, and the thing is everybody around me knew. It's just I didn't realize it. And so that's one of the reasons I say I want to talk about being uncomfortable, because one, sometimes we're uncomfortable and we don't realize that the uncomfortableness is showing. So we think we're uncomfortable and we're just unhappy. But the people around us realize they need a shift. And so one of the most recent analogies I've used is, when you're driving in a car and it starts doing this kind of sound, it means the car needs to shift. So in the human world, when your life feels like it's falling apart, you're uncomfortable, you're nervous, and things are going crazy in your life, you just can't seem to control it. Those are the gears of your life getting stuck. It's time to shift. Either you need to gear up or gear down, right, Mr. Gary? Because Gary's a car man.
Yeah, and it comes back to a mindset. When those things are happening, a lot of times we think something is wrong. Mm-hmm. And really it's life. And if we want to call it the universe, I call it the nudge. Mm-hmm. There are nudges that we have in our life that are called opportunities. And I remember Norman Vincent Peale, back in the day. In fact, one of the really neat books that he wrote was Enthusiasm Makes the Difference. And people know that I'm a word guy, and the word enthusiasm is two words out of the Greek. Ixus is God, ism is within. The literal meaning of the word enthusiasm is God within. And so, but when we have this nudge, it's not negative, it's a positive, it's an opportunity. And instead of looking at it as being devastating, I mean, and what a lot of people don't know about the MS story is 6 months later, I was diagnosed with the second worst case of sleep apnea in the state of Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
They sent me home with a CPAP because they said I could die at any moment. And by the way, the first person that was worse than you died, so you got promoted. Yay! It also, within 6 months, I had two different people, two medical professionals saying, you can die anytime. And yet, I'm ornery. I go, it's got to catch me. There was an attitude shift that I knew that if I just accepted what their prognosis was, because they were doctors who are supposed to know everything, that I would end up with the reality that they had, not I had. And here was the secret, and Michelle, I know you've done this too, is that I have never said I had anything. I've always said I was diagnosed with. It says it was someone else's opinion. Now, even this morning, my wife had to help me with my buttons because I had pardon?
She got to.
She got to. But yeah, so there's adjustments. When I travel as a speaker at hotels, there's times that I ask the hotel staff to do my buttons because I'm just not.
Yeah, he has no fingers. He doesn't feel it.
The dexterity. I still have numbness. But guess what? I'm still here. Michelle, you're still here. And we deal with things that people around us, you and I know what we go through.
About to say, and that's why we work so well together. Okay, so let me give you a little tiny bit of my backstory. Yeah. So in 2014, I was in a car accident and I obtained a traumatic brain injury. So not just a normal injury. 4 areas of my brain do not work. So my frontal lobe, so I have no inner voice. Everything comes out over my left ear, the back of my head, because it messes with my eyes, which messes with my balance, and that will come in later. And then my 2 hemispheres disconnected. So sometimes my left side of my body doesn't work with the right side of my body, and I fall over. And that's one bit. So after a good 18 months of not being able to walk or talk, and when I started walking and talking, I did my TEDx. Don't ask me how I did it. I got asked to do a TEDx and I did that. Did a TEDx. And then about 6 months after the TEDx, I found out I had breast cancer. And then they gave me 3 months to live. And so I went into high gear because, again, just like Gary, I could either sit back and take what they said and have the 3 months and cry about it, or I can go full throttle and do everything I thought I wanted to do in my lifetime and just condense it into 3 months. And so that's what I did. I condensed and I moved and I got very focused. And at the end of 3 months, my husband said, it's been 3 months and you're still going. And we just giggled and just kept going. So it's just such a beautiful thing to see that What other people tell you does not have to be you. You can choose this stuff. I mean, sometimes, there's things in our lives that we just cannot control. And yes, like for the 18 months I couldn't walk, right? And what's so funny about it is after the breast cancer and all of that, Gary and I both have no feeling. So from my neck to my pelvic bone, I have no feeling in my torso. And then we're a perfect match because he has no feelings in his extremities. So the two of us together, we were like melded together. We would have like a full body that had feeling. And so that's our joke. Sometimes we're sitting on stage and we're talking and I'll do, uh-oh. And Gary will do, huh? And I'll be falling over and he'll be falling over at the same time. So it's really funny because we laugh about it. Yeah. It doesn't make us cry. It doesn't make us worry about it. We have been uncomfortable ever since we were diagnosed, and you wouldn't know it until we told you. And so we're sharing this with you because right now the world is uncomfortable, and we want to let you know that, it's okay. The way I found my way through my uncomfortableness was I had to find a positive light in it. Now, when people see me, I'm really smiley and happy, joy. But when I say positive, and Gary knows this, I'm a hardcore woman. When I say positive, I don't mean happy, joy. I just happen to be a giggly, happy lady. I mean positivity. Take that word positive and break it up. Posi means possibilities, open to possibilities, and that there are options. And if I said negative means to remove all options. So when I say be positive and find something in that world of negativity that's happening in your world right now, find the positive. I mean, find the possibility of the outcome. Like Gary and I both found in our medical circumstances, we found possibilities that were not even in the books. We created our own. And just because no one else has done it before doesn't mean you can't be the one who does.
Be the leader.
Yes.
The biggest thing when we're going through, or one of the things right now, as we're all going through this interesting time, as I'm calling it, is that it's the first time I believe that everyone on the planet is going through the same thing. There have been,
in their own perspective, they're all on the same storm,
but at the edge, in the middle, whatever. And we're dealing with different stimuluses, but it is a situation where there's a lot of benefits that are coming out of this. And we can choose and be angry and be frustrated, which I've got to admit, my driver personality and my orneriness,
your toddler mindset took in and said, no.
And so my neighbors, we have these, connections over the fence, and my wife is saying, I'm glad you can talk to them and not to me. But so we need those outlets. But at the end of the day, what are we going to do as a response to the stimulus? Because it's not the stimulus that's going to determine how we come through any adversity. It's going to be our decision, what we activate, what do we implement out of this. And that's where Michelle and we've made decisions. It's not perfect. We don't have a perfect body. We don't have a, quote, perfect life, but it's enough. And when we look at it that way, then we see ourselves as being normal. Everybody that I have come in contact with that have gone through similar situations, and they've, really benefited from the other side. Because another one of the things that I tell people is I would not wish my life onto anyone, but I would not change anything because I would not be the man I am today if I did.
Exactly.
And I'm not wishing anything bad on anyone that is listening to us. Yeah, and Michelle, I know you don't either. But at the same time, what were we given an opportunity for now to be able to, whether it be in business, personal relationships, spirituality, health, whatever it may be, what are the opportunities that are being presented to us that we're not seeing?
I've used an analogy. I think 100,000 podcasts in the past 4 or 5 weeks. But one of the analogies that came out of me, well, a couple of them came out, but one of them that I want to bring out is, have you heard the thing about the analogy of the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean?
No.
Okay, so the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean. The carrot is hard, right? You look at that thing and it's hard and it's strong. An egg, it's very fragile. And if you crack it, it'll break. And then you have the coffee bean. It's hard and it's bitter, and that's about it. But you put those 3 objects into hot water, boiling water, bad situation, right? What kind of person do you want to be at the end? Do you want to be a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? A carrot goes through hot water and becomes soft and malleable and kind of squishes under the pressure. Gets mushy. If you keep it in the hot water long enough, it turns into soup, basically. It melds into the water. The egg, which was very fragile at the beginning, when you put it in hot water, it gets hard. It gets hard and it kind of stinks. So basically what happens, it could come in as a fragile egg and at the end have a hardened heart, and you've been changed into something different that isn't always that pleasing, but still good. Or can you be the coffee bean that comes in through the hot water and comes out better than you were before? You become a delicious drink, with an amazing aroma. Even people who don't like coffee tend to like the smell of coffee. So what are you? Do you want to be a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? And it's a choice. What do you choose? Because we all can adjust in different ways. And I told my husband, but I kind of like eggs. And he says, I know him, but your analogy doesn't work if you say you want to be an egg. I'm like, oh, okay. But that's the whole thing. It's in life, things happen. It's how we choose to adjust to it is the end. What did I do? In my book, It's Not Luck Overcoming You. I put I put a quote in. I put a quote in that said, change or growth is uncomfortable. It's not rainbows and butterflies running through a field of daisies. Change it's scary, and it focuses and it forces us to see who we really are. The beauty's in the possibilities. And I think I've heard you say it in one of our boot camps is, we're not afraid of the unknown. We fear what we think we know of the unknown. I quote you all the time on that.
Yeah, as little kids, we're always afraid. Well, I think most of us have had situations where we saw shadows and we thought there was, monsters under the bed in the closet, and then hopefully a parent comes in, turns on the light, and they all disappear. And so our imagination, I call it creating a story. Human beings are fantastically adept at creating stories that don't exist. That's why we go to movies.
Yes.
But when we do it,
movies, no.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I touch you, I bow to you. You are a movie star, and for those that don't know, she truly is. The stories that we tell from the stimulus, and they have no basis in reality. In fact, a friend of mine years ago went into the hospital for a checkup, and he was fine. He was just going in for a checkup, and they found stage 4 lung cancer. And they said, go home, you've got 30 days. And he looked at the doctor, and this is one of those serendipity moments where he knew my story. He looked at the doctor's name tag and looked back up at him and said, I'm sorry, but I don't see God listed on your name tag.
I don't see it on any of your diplomas. Just check.
Yeah. And it wasn't that the doctor was being mean. He was dealing with his reality. And so my friend went home and he lived another 3.5, 4, it was almost 4 years.
That's incredible.
And so, but it was in a mindset. And, the other thing is that, when you're talking about analogies, is we talk about going through the fire. Steel is only made through fire. It's only in the connection. When we have a break, if you break a bone, the most strong part of that, say your leg bone, is at the point of breaking.
Yeah,
when they put 2 pieces of metal together and weld them, the strongest point in that piece of metal is the weld. So what we look at as maybe not being complete or being, somehow weird, that's part of the story. That's part of the benefit. That's part of what we can contribute to society so others may follow us. I'm asked all the time, what's the right road? And my answer is there is only one road. We are all just at different mile markers. And because of that, the things that we have gone through, the things that Michelle and I have gone through, we have chosen to share. We don't want your sympathy. We don't want your empathy. We want your believability, but not in us, in you. And when you do that, we've done our job. We've allowed others to follow in our footsteps, and then people will follow in your footsteps. And because of that, we will have a stronger world society. And the creativity, the things that will come out of that, are generations that we will not have the opportunity to meet will benefit from.
Exactly. I have to add to, I'm in an analogy mood right now. Everything that is valuable in our world tends to go through fire. So think silver gets purified through it, glass has to melt down, be melded through heat in order to melt to something else. I was on a podcast the other day called the Empowered Women Podcast, and she got me on this analogy of water pitchers and glass and how we needed to fill each other's pitchers, right? And I said, she says, well, what about those of us who are broken? And I said, if you're broken, I said, what's stronger, a mosaic or a glass? And she goes, well, of course, a mosaic, because it's melded together and da-da-da. And then you have that thicker part of it behind it. So that, and I said, and how beautiful if someone was handing you a clear glass and someone handed you a mosaic of colored glass that was broken in pieces, which one would you find more attractive, more beautiful? And she said, oh, of course, the mosaic. I said, exactly. Your broken pieces with things that you think are crushing you or making you worse are actually making you more unique and more beautiful than you could ever imagine. Embrace the break and allow your body to go through a little bit more heat so that you can be melded back together and become something new. My whole analogy was you can have a regular glass or you can have a broken glass that's been melted back together with a couple more colors in it, a little more fragments. And wow. I would rather be the unique glass, the one that never looks like anything ever happened to it. And we have to embrace those kind of things. Our breakage is our beauty. And it kind of goes with that whole other, refinement of heat. Heat brings that thing back together. Well, bad things happen. Heat happens. Let it meld you. Let it grow you into something new. It's a choice. It might not be an easy choice. Trust us. Gary and I didn't skip through our pain. We were
didn't ask for it.
ourselves. Yeah, we just did. And you'll find your own way.
I love your analogy because in the heat, particularly with metals, it's by heating it, it takes out the impurities. And what you end up with is something that is usable, that's beautiful, is seen as valuable. And when we have heard the stories of people on their deathbeds, it's always, the most common thing is, I wish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be on my deathbed and say, I wish. I want to be on my deathbed. In fact, I want to go out with my boots on, but I want to go out with, I'm grateful for. Mm-hmm. It is totally different. And so it's not about the quantity of life, it's the quality. What do we want? What do we want to experience? Where are the memories? Where are the seeds that we're going to plant in our families and in society? And when we look at that as not just a opportunity, but a responsibility, an obligation to be able to share the wisdom that each of us have. Yeah. Everybody has value. Everybody. But we have been taught in society so much of the time is shut up, sit down, and don't make a wave.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle and I make cannonballs in the pool. But it's not about us. It's not about, look at me, I'm so great. It's about, look at me, come with us.
Come with us.
And to release your genuine, special gifts, no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be flamboyant. It doesn't have to be on stages. But each and every person on this planet has a gift to be able to benefit others that they touch.
Yes, and that's a lot of that comes back to our whole Breakthrough Speaker Mastery Bootcamp is because, people think, oh, because they're doing that speaker mastery thing, that's all about the business of speaking. And it's like, we do teach the business of speaking, but the more powerful thing is getting your story out so that you can share it. And I don't care what business you're in, business is storytelling. And that's what Gary and I are very, very gifted at, is sharing you and helping you develop your story in your words so that you can compel the people who need to attach to you to learn from your story. So we don't say, come out, be mini us, be our puppets. No, it's you. And so we have a very intensive, 2.5 day boot camp. And right now, I mean, with everything shut down, we've been talking about, how do we do this virtually? At least, give you peppering versions of it so that you know what's coming when we do get released to come out into the wild again, because it needs to be done. And I hate to think that what we're doing right now, being sheltered and not being able to gather in more than 10, that the world is losing its stories. So I want you all to keep doing me a favor, okay? While Gary and I are figuring out what we're going to do, because the speaker bootcamp is a very tight thing, yeah, and we like the energy of the room, but we're playing with what to do next in order to help you get your stories out.
Something else that I was sharing with someone yesterday that is a brand new speaker, and they were saying this is the worst time for them to be coming out as a speaker. I go, well, in reality, it isn't, because what has happened, because a lot of things have shifted, canceled, postponed, is that those that were scheduled to be speakers at different events, when we're all released back into the world, then those connections may not work for the calendars. And so they're going to be scrambling to look for people to be able to present to their audiences.
Yeah, because everything's
the more people do help. I mean, Michelle, what you just said was really funny. You've done a million podcasts. I'm getting offered I have 5 right now that I haven't even responded to, and I'm doing 3 to 4 a week already. And I'm just going, oh God.
And they're starting like at 6 a.m. And that's why I'm telling people, if you want to be a speaker, speak. Start doing it. And as you get on your podcast, if you share whatever you're doing on different podcasts, watch what you do and get the recordings. And what do you like about yourself and what do you not? And then reach out to Gary and I and say, hey, help me get from A to B. And so we're there for you. And if you're uncomfortable, it's okay. It is. And remember, what was that other thing by Jim Rohn? Without a sense of urgency, desire loses its value. We have a sense of urgency. Yeah, we have a sense of urgency right now. So without a sense of urgency, desire loses its value. Right now, we were all in a panic state of urgency. Go find your desire. Make it happen. Now's the time to plan.
The other thing that Jim Rohn said is that, and for those of you that don't know who Jim Rohn is or actually was, look him up. I mean, my wife and I started with him back in 1976, I believe it was, with Tony Robbins sitting in the front row when he was living in his Volkswagen Bug. But one of the things that I always loved about Jim is his wisdom. And sometimes it's that wisdom that you go, duh. Here's the thing. He said, no one can do your push-ups for you. No one can do your push-ups for you. And all he was saying is get in the game.
I think the one that got me for him is unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you have, what you've got. And I think that's my big thing. I wanted changes, so I had to change me. You can't want changes and keep looking on the outside for change. It has to start in you. And another thing I say a lot lately has been, now's the time to look inside. Yeah. There's no outside noise. Start looking inside. What do you want to change? And if you don't want to change, great. If you want to change, great. And remember, that's a lot of stress a lot of people are getting, is they feel like because they're at home, they should be, building a structure of, the Tower of Babel. I don't know. I mean, it's like, I haven't built my I haven't written my 5,000 page book. I haven't done. I'm like, maybe you just need to relax. Maybe you just need to learn how to take a bubble bath. Stop beating yourself up for not accomplishing something monstrous and just be. Get comfortable with being.
It's so important. Another thing that Jim Rohn said is small hinges swing big doors.
Boy, that's a big one for you.
And when I was in flight training, one of the things they taught us, if there's an emergency on the flight, the first thing you do is, so let's say you have a fire alarm in the cockpit, somewhere there's a fire and you just don't know where, what is the first thing you do? And what they taught us was fly the airplane. You don't look for a fire extinguisher, you don't look for the manual, you don't look for, you fly the airplane. And it's exactly what Michelle was just saying, is that when we do that, when we chunk it down, when we take it piece by piece, we're able to look at which things are going to be most valuable, not only to others, but to ourselves. And to allow yourself, the first thing that, we teach around creating a vision is to dream. But you can't dream in a vacuum. You can't dream when you're going 1,000 miles an hour. Is to sit, be quiet, listen to yourself, find out what is not necessarily the most important, but the most valuable.
Yeah.
Words are really important here, and that's something that I've embraced in my life, is that, again, our brains are just computers. They don't know right, wrong, good, bad. So what are we programming ourselves to be able to see? What are we programming ourselves and how we want to feel? And then how to embrace and to move forward. Something I've said for a very long time is momentum does not necessarily mean speed. It means movement. And it's not, it's, for Michelle, we were talking earlier, we were texting back and forth. It's how we don't get stuck. And for those of you that live in snow country, when you're in snow, or I grew up in the desert, in sand as well, when you start losing your traction, you don't put more energy to the tires, you put less. You slow up until you gain traction for you to be able to get momentum out of where you are. And it's the same thing in business and in life, I believe.
Well, I know that's a fact. I mean, and that's why the advice I give to my clients is step back.
Yeah.
Because the biggest growth I had was when I was told, you've got a brain injury. Okay, so then I got quiet. Quiet was number one. And the next one, you have cancer and you have no immunity. You may not want to be around people. So not only did I pull back and got quiet, I got quiet, I pulled back and I had to assess. And from that moment, my life trajectory completely shifted from politics to speaking internationally. I mean, so it was such a quick shift once I got quiet enough to hear what I was supposed to be doing in the first place. I mean, I've been running on my gears, trying to forcing myself into some pavement because I thought it would be a good place to be. And then when everything hit the fan and I lost everything, I realized I was on the wrong track in the first place. And so all that struggle I was doing to get back to it, I wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. I needed a new track. So I see this as our massive computer being unplugged. You're being reset right now. And, some people are like, let's go back. Let's do everything. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Are you ready for what you're going to go for? Have you planned? The differences between a rut and a grave are the dimensions, people. That's a quote by Ellen Glasgow. I have that in my first book. If you keep doing the same thing, expecting something different, as Einstein said, you are the definition of insanity. So if you didn't like what you had before all of this unplug, you must do something different. Stop building the dimensions of your grave and live a little bit. Find something that makes you happy so that when we go back, you're happier in your new state. Because we will never have back to normal. We are all shifted. Our minds have changed. Everything about us has changed. And we all have to accept the fact that when we go back, there are people who now know they don't want to work 9 to 5. People now know they don't want to sit in traffic for 4 hours to get to a job only 10 miles away. Now people know that you can work from home and still get the job done. Matter of fact, work more. So there's a perception change. There will not be the old normal. And we have to be ready for that.
When I was in college, there was a history class that I took, and the book that was the main book of the course, was the good old days. They weren't. The good old days, they weren't. We have a tendency to romanticize the past, and we think about the 1800s, the westerns, or whatever. You think about just the changes in the ability of what we do with human waste, what we do with do you want to go to the dentist in the 1800s? I don't think so. Mortality for women in childbirth was over 50%. So what we think of the good old days and the romance of it, were there positives? Absolutely. But every time we wake up, we're not in the same place that we were yesterday. And then we get into the physics of it. I'll throw something out. Is that we are moving through space as a solar system at over 500,000 miles an hour, or 500 miles, 500,000 miles a second. And so if we were to send someone in a spaceship outside of our solar system, they would have to come back to a place that we weren't when they left. Think about that. Wayne Gretzky said, when asked why was he always around the puck, his answer was, because I go to where the puck is going to be, not where it is. So what do we take that as an analogy for us right now, is that let's not look at where we were. Let's not look at where we are. Let's look at where we're going. Mm-hmm. What is it that we're thinking outside the box? How are we going to adjust to make ourselves even more valuable? You know, when we started this adversity, people were coming out and saying it was going to be really, it's wrong to make money now. And where my thing is that if you were valuable before the event, you are more valuable now during and then after the event. So it's not using the event to make money. It's making money and progress and impact in spite of the event. And when you do that, you are seen as a progressive leader. You're looking and giving people hope. And, you know, it's really funny. I tell people all the time, I want you hopeless. And I go, well, that's not very nice. And I go, no, you don't understand. If we're hoping all the time, we're wanting to be rescued or wanting to win the lottery, we're hoping something's going to come out. I want you to know, we're not going to know the exact result, but I want you to know you are going to have a result that you can use, because you can and you will. Michelle and I are living proof of that. I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, you will not believe this, but we've been on for over 45 minutes. For those of you who have stayed on with us, thank you so much for listening to us talk, because Gary and I, this is a phone call that Gary and I would normally have. We get into deep thoughts and we just start talking. And I wanted you to be part of that, to see, there are other ways of thinking, and that there are people out there who can help guide you through them. And Gary and I are at your disposal. So reach out to us. And we'll let you know we are doing our Breakthrough Speaker Mastery Bootcamp and the Breakthrough Business Mastery Bootcamp. We're working on the things on what we're doing, but we are. And we have not left you. We are coming back. And I did make this broadcast into the speaker alumni page. Cool. We're testing it to see how it goes, because this is all new to me. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments, because we'll see them when we get off the air and we can answer them for you. And any last words from you, Gary?
What you just said is we're reachable. I get this a lot, where people think that we're so busy. We are, but we're here for you. And, you can reach out directly to Michelle. Her email address is there, her website. My direct, email is just Gary@GaryBarnesInternational.com. But most of the time when people reach out to us, it's not about engaging us. Don't worry about that. But we have resources because of what we have done and who we're connected with. And let's not go through this alone. I'll leave you with this last Garyism. Is life is a solo journey traveled with many. And it's your choice to join and be able to be a part of the movement, as it could be described, or be the lone wolf. It's going to be up to you. But, Michelle and I, we have so much fun. And I'm so blessed to know her and to be able to do the programs that we do together and the impact, what we see people doing and impacting others. And so with that, I just thank you for the time.
I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll do this again because I really like the interaction and that we can talk and connect the way we do. I'm loving this program. And Gary is on Instagram, and so am I. So we're both on Instagram. And just look for our names. We keep it easy. We keep it easy. It's our names. And someone says, can you change a setting? It'll allow you to see the comments during. Oh, we can see them. I'm just very distracted and I'm not very good at reading them and talking at the same time. So yes, Bat, they are showing. I'm just, there are a lot of them and I can't track them. It will come with, what's that, with experience, right, Gary?
I will say, I am doing something that's come out of this adversity time. It's what I call the Facebook Give Back series that I've been doing, where I bring on leading authorities around the world and be able to do an interview, about a half an hour interview. They're on my YouTube channel. It's just Gary Burns or Gary Burns International. I don't remember which.
You'll find it.
And you can find the old ones. But what I wanted to say is on May 15th, I believe it is, we're doing Michelle. I don't know if I should say it that way. Michelle will be on the program. See, I mean, I told you things will come out with what we do. But
okay. If you go to my YouTube page, I'm connected to Gary's YouTube page. So if you find me, you can find who I subscribe to, and he's one of them.
But I just want to invite everybody on for that interview because it really is an interview, and I will be quiet most of the time, and you're going to be able to experience Michelle in a little different light, and they're a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm on May 15th at 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. I look forward to being on that with you. It's going to be so cool. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And please share and like and subscribe and get the word out because the world needs more people like Gary and I and those who do what we do in the world. Now is the time for people to be reached through whatever this social media world is, reached out to and touch their minds and their hearts to lift them up and have them realize they are more than they believe they are and that they can do more than they believe they can. And that's what Gary and I do. We share our beliefs in you. Have a great week, everyone. And we will talk to you all on the next Live with Michelle Moras and my random thoughts. Thanks, Gary, for joining me.
You're welcome.